Hi, my name is Chris Ryan. Welcome to the Forest of Arden and welcome to video number 2 in this 4-part video series on the backswing. Video 1, if you haven't already seen it, covered the role that the body plays in the backswing. This video, video number 2, we're going to be taking an in-depth look at the arms and how they have to move relative to your body to improve your backswing. So we're really focusing in this video on the arms and the role that they play in the backswing, and we're going to split this into 4 different areas, 4 things that the arms are going to be doing and a couple of checkpoints that you can have in your golf swing. What are those 4 things? Well, those 4 things are wrist set or wrist cock, which is going to be certainly more in the wrist than the arms that we're categorizing in this area. So wrist set or wrist cock. We're going to have arm rotation. We're going to have what I call arm travel. And then we're going to look a little bit at the plane. So where are your arms at the top? Do you have a very, very steep arm plane or a very low arm plane, and the benefits or the drawbacks of each of those? So we're going to start off with wrist set or wrist cock, however you want to term that. Now, this is something which happens pretty much in every golf swing. I will get golfers coming to me saying things like, I don't really set my wrist in the golf swing. The reality of that is they actually do. It's just very often something that's not conscious. It's just something that tends to happen in the golf swing. But there's a couple of things that we need to look at which are going to help us ensure this is done correctly. This is a little test I want you to take. Take a starting position. And without moving your lead forearm, and without really moving the grip end of the club at all, I want you to see if you can create a wrist cock where the club would reach horizontal with the ground. So you can see how hopefully my lead arm is not moving, the grip end of the club is staying pretty centered, but the club is rising up to horizontal. This would be wrist set or wrist cock. Now, the reason I'm able to do that in the way I just described is because of the way that I hold the golf club. The golf club is placed in my hand correctly. Some of you may well find that when you try and perform that, one of 2 things happens. Either you can't get the golf club up to horizontal, or 2, you may find that when you do that, you actually get some bend in the arms. So you can see how as I'm raising the club up to horizontal, I'm getting some bend in the arms. This would indicate to us that through the golf swing, you're not going to be able to set your wrists correctly. We would tend to see those golfers, as they try and set their wrists, creating those movements in the backswing. So you'll notice how there's a breakdown of this lead arm. Now, we're not going to cover it too much in this video because this is more about the backswing, but if that is you, you need to check how you're holding the golf club. If you fall into one of those 2 categories and you can't perform that little exercise as I just described, it's probably going to be due to where the golf club is placed in your hands. It's not going to be quite right. That's going to make it very difficult for you to use the wrists correctly. So that's our first little checkpoint. We need to ensure that you can use the wrists correctly. That often stems from how you hold the golf club. So in a golf swing, we have wrist set is going to be present. That will be in your golf swing. What else is in your golf swing is arm rotation. So what does arm rotation look like? Well, if I took a setup and I'm going to set my wrists. Now, arm rotation would be when we move that golf club around to the right, such as this. So you can see how I've very, very simply rotated the golf club around to the right-hand side. That would be arm rotation. Now, if I add some shoulder turn, you're going to see how I start to get what might now look like a pretty orthodox halfway back position. So arm rotation is really what is setting the angle of the golf club. We're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail in video 3, but arm rotation needs to be present in your backswing. So we've now got wrist set, we've got arm rotation. Now if I turn my shoulders through 90 degrees, my arms are going to end up around about here. Now that still doesn't look quite like a full golf swing. So we would have some amount of what I call arm travel, where the arms travel a little bit independently on their own. So this would be what I class as arm travel. So how much arm travel we have is really going to it's going to give your golf swing its look. It's going to how long that golf swing looks. So does it look 3/4? Does it look full? You know, whatever that length would be. That's often due to arm travel. So for me, in the backswing, when we're talking about the arms, we've got three main components. We've got the wrists, which are going to set. We've got the arms, which are going to rotate, and we've got the arms, which are going to travel by some amount. Now, a very, very simple way to feel what good arm movement would be to actually do the little exercises that I've just done there. So I would take my starting position and I would isolate those different movements. So there would be my wrist set, there would be my rotation of my arms, and as I turn back, I can allow my arms to travel a little bit. And I start to end up with what hopefully looks like a pretty good backswing. And you can hopefully see how those three components were evident or present in that movement. Ultimately, in the golf swing, we have to blend those movements together because I've done them there, separately. But that would be what happens in a good golf swing. We would get a nice blend of wrist set, arm rotation, and arm travel. And blending those movements together is really the skill in what's going to give your backswing that nice look, that nice flow, that nice rhythm, and you're going to sort of hit, the desired positions that we want to see in the golf swing. So let's look at very quickly some of the common mistakes that I see when golfers are moving their arms in this fashion. We've already discussed a little bit about some of the downfalls that we see with the wrist set. Sometimes we see the arms flexing a little bit too much, and we see that as we go back, that we see the lead arm break down. As I've already said, that's very often related to the grip. Now, when I make my arm rotation, notice how my elbows will stay very, very close. Very, very common is when a golfer rotates the arms to the right, the elbows tend to separate a little bit too much. And you can see how that would hopefully look very different. Now, this golfer, as they get up to the top, is going to find that the elbows are far too far apart. And we start to make it very, very difficult on the downswing to get the arms into a good delivery position. So sometimes when we see the arm rotations, we can see the elbows separate too much. In video 4, we are going to look at some really good drills that you can do, which are going to help with all of the things that we're covering in this video series, the body pivot, the arm fold, the wrist set, all of these things. So make sure you do watch video 4, because we're going to cover a lot of drills that are going to actually help you assess whether you need to work on any of these areas. So the final thing we're going to look at in this video is the plane of the lead arm at the top. What do we mean by that? Well, we mean the angle of the lead arm, and we usually look at that relative to the shoulder. So this would be a very, very steep arm swing. This, on the other hand, would be a very, very flat arm swing. And you can see how my lead arm is changing angle. Now, we do see lots of different positions here. If you look at the tours, the European Tour, the PGA Tour, you're going to see lots of different left arm positions, very steep swings, very flat swings. So there is no one size fits all here, and we have to look at what we call matchups. So if you've got a very, very steep lead arm at the top, that's fine. You just have to do certain things in the downswing. If you've got a very, very flat arm position at the top, again, you just have to do certain things in the downswing. So it's very difficult for me to say exactly where you should be, but as a guide, and we are talking a guide here, this would not be something that I would say everybody has to fit into. I would like to see the lead arm about the same angle as the shoulders. So hopefully you can see how my lead arm about matches my shoulder blade. It's not suddenly under my shoulders, and it's not excessively high this way. About on my shoulder angle would be what I would look for as a guide. Okay, I really want to stress this as a guide. This is not something that everybody has to do. You've got some fantastic players, Dustin Johnson is a great example, Justin Thomas again, who tend to have quite vertical arm positions, but they match that up very well with what they do on the downswing. And that's really the key. It's trying to find the matchups. And if you do X on one side, you have to do something on the other side to match it up. The best players in the world do this absolutely fantastically. So let's have a quick recap of what we've discussed today. We're talking all about the arms. What is present in the backswing? There is going to be some wrist set. There is going to be some arm rotation. There is going to be some arm travel. And you are going to have a lead arm plane at the top. Those 4 things are going to make up how your arms move in the golf swing and what your golf swing ultimately looks like. Try the drills, try and isolate the movements, feel what they're like on their own, and then try and blend them together into your golf swing. Right, let me go ahead and hit one. Okay, and I'm actually going to hit this one doing the drill that we discussed earlier. So I'm going to go wrist set first, arm rotation second, turn my shoulders, arms are going to travel a little bit, and then we can hit it down. So that's a great little practice drill that you can do if you're really struggling with what the arms need to do. That's going to help you feel those different movements, put them into a golf swing, and you can ultimately blend that through to the full swing during practice. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully that video was helpful. Make sure you stay tuned for videos 3, which is talking about the golf club in the backswing, and then video 4, which is covering some drills that you can do in practice, which is going to help you better move the different areas that we're talking about in the backswing and hopefully help you play some better golf. All the usual stuff is down below. There's a comments box down there. There is also a link to subscribe if you're not a subscriber. That's really key because that's going to make sure you don't miss the remainder of the video series. Also a like button down there. If you did like the video, give it a thumbs up, and stay tuned for videos 3 and videos 4 coming shortly.